Welcome, my name is Jesse and you are listening to The Wake Up Call. This show is about opening your eyes to how you've been living, bringing awareness to the standard you've been operating at, and helping you start living to your full potential. There are two ways I'll help you do this. One, by disciplining your mind, and two, by strengthening your body. It's time to take stock of your current performance and go to the next level. Let's do this. Guys and girls, welcome back to a fresh episode of The Wake Up Call. This is episode 168. The topic of today's podcast is upholding movement standards. This is absolutely essential if you do any form of gym training. If you lift weights, if you swing kettlebells, if you do Olympic lifting, if you rip heavy barbells off the ground, having a movement standard is an absolute must. It has to be something that you consciously integrate and put in your training program. Why? Because it is impossible to hit a target that doesn't exist. If you have nothing to aim for, how do you know if you're successful or unsuccessful in what it is that you're doing? No standards tells me that you don't really care about what it is you're doing. Whether it's a squat, whether it's a barbell, push press, whether it's a push up, whether it's a squat, whether it's kettlebell related work, anything. It tells me that you don't have a line in the sand that tells you this is acceptable and this is unacceptable. And really it comes down to your level of standards, how high they are or how low they are. Or, like I just mentioned, if you have no standards whatsoever. So I've got a few questions to help unpack this and help you establish where you fit on the standards continuum. Do you have high standards? Do you have medium standards? Do you have low standards? Or do you just say, fuck it and have no standards at all? Do you have a bare minimum standard for what you deem acceptable technique? Is there a line that when you cross it, you're like, ooh, that's a red flag. I actually need to do something about it. Do you have that marker in place? Do you have a framework to ensure you do the right thing every single time? Or do you just make it up as you go and you wing it? Do you have a process to produce the same quality of movement from the beginning of the set through the middle when it starts to get a little bit hard and then right at the end when it's the most difficult, you're the most tired and you've got the highest level of fatigue? Do you have a process to establish that? Yes or no? And if this kind of stops you in your tracks and makes you think, holy shit, I don't have any of that, good. I've done part of my job so far in awakening you to the fact that what you do matters and how you move in the gym, how you move outside of the gym, the way you lift weights, the way you put weights down, the way you put weights away. All of this stuff matters. Your body is only as strong as the positions you put it in. So if you put your body in really strong and, advantageous positions, you're going to last a really long time without hurting yourself. Okay. But on the flip side, if you have no rhyme or reason, or like I said, a process for lifting and you just do things however the fuck you want, it's only a matter of time before your body starts fighting back or coming down with some kind of injury or breakdown. It's only a matter of time before, that last straw that breaks the camel's back. So like I said, if you don't have a minimum standard, if you don't have a framework to ensure you're doing the right thing every time, if you don't have a process that helps you produce the same quality of movement from start to finish, you are leaving results on the table and you are also opening yourself up to injury. And the injury might not be here, might not be today, might not be tomorrow, might not even be this week, but it might be when you're doing something really mundane, something really low level. And you're like, fuck, why did that happen? Well, it happened because you put your body through 10 or 100 or 1,000 reps that were really mediocre or really shitty. And your body got to the point where it could no longer tolerate that poor pattern of movement. Does that make sense? My goal is to give you the best technique and a framework so that you can do the most amount of reps. You can get the most amount of duty cycles out of your body without it breaking down on you. That's the end goal, because your body, the ligaments, tendons, bones, everything that you have, they should be able to last you a fucking lifetime. The better your form, the stronger you are, the more resilient your body, the longer your body will reciprocate and will allow you to move well and lift pain-free. When it comes to movement standards, every exercise has a gold standard or a best practice when it comes to movement efficiency. So this means moving the load or the resistance from point A to point B as efficiently as possible, without any wasted energy, without any unnecessary movement. So this means engaging the right muscle groups and not using the unwanted ones. It means moving from the correct joints and not moving from the unwanted ones. So if your lower back shouldn't be moving, but it is, that's a red flag. That's a problem, and you need to fix it. It means having every single rep look and feel the same in terms of technique and in terms of how you move, not in terms of difficulty or effort. At the start of the set, the effort will be lower compared to at the end of the set when you get tired and your muscles fatigue. That's a natural byproduct of strength training, of resistance training. The more you do, the more tired you get. It does not mean you can let your technique slip. It does not mean you allow your standard of movement to drop down just because you're tired. No. Tired, acceptable. Lazy, unacceptable. Start to understand the difference between those two statements. Like I said, this is called having a movement standard, a way you do things. And what it also means is that on the flip side, there is a way of how not to do things or things we want to avoid. So it's not always about doing things a certain way, but it's also making sure you understand the flip side and how to avoid getting into bad or poor or weak positions so that you can offset, like I said, the body being put in weak positions or having undue stress or pressure or load placed upon it. Okay? So the way I do things at Fulla Strength and Conditioning, my personal training and coaching business, is this. I say to my students, this is the way we do things here. This is how we do it. And then I explain to them, this is why we do it this way. So it's not just because Jesse said so. I actually break down in detail each movement, what it is, what we're trying to do, which are the target muscle groups, what we're looking for, and also what we're not looking for. So then when it's time for my students to replicate that movement, they have a very, very good understanding of what it is we're looking for and how to do it because it's been explained to them clearly. This is what we want. This is what we don't want. These are the muscles you should feel. These are the ones that shouldn't be doing anything. These are the joints that should be moving. These are the ones that shouldn't be moving at all. Does that make sense? So we've got a really clear kind of pathway or checklist, if you will, for identifying this is the standard we want. This is the standard we want to avoid. And once you understand these key concepts for each exercise in your training plan, you won't want to ever do things any other way. Once you know what you're doing, how to do it, and why you have to do it that way, or why you should do it that way, you won't want to do it any other fucking way. Because you know the benefits. You know how it's going to actually help you get better, how to get you stronger, how to make you move more efficiently, and how to take pressure off your joints and not load up your spine and, not place unwanted torque or rotational stress upon the knees or whatever it is, okay? I'm going to give you an example. Give you a really quick example. Yesterday, I had a young man come in for an initial consultation, and his goal, he wants to build strength and put on some muscle. He wants to gain some size, but he doesn't know what to do in the gym. Doesn't have a clue. 18 years old, he's walked into the gym. It's like, right, don't know what to do, don't know where to start, got no clue where to even begin. And that's fine. I was exactly like him. First time I went into the gym, it was daunting as shit. I was looking around, I was like, fuck all these people. They look like they know what they're doing. And here I am, little old me, skinny fucking kid, wants to put on some muscle, get stronger and all this and build my body up, but no idea what to do or where to even begin, except for bicep curls because curls get the girls. But anyway, he came in and didn't know what to do. Doesn't know which exercise to do and doesn't know how to do them properly, so safely and effectively. And that's what a professional is here for. That's what me as a personal trainer and coach is for, is to help bridge that gap, to take you from not knowing what to do, having no confidence, no awareness, to understanding this is what you should be doing. These are the movements that should be in a program. This is how we do them the right way. And this is a good way to progress them from week one or day one right through to 3 months down the line, 6 months down the line, 3 years down the line. So anyway, this lad came in and I put him through a movement evaluation to establish his base level of movement and understand what he already knew. Some people come to me as a blank canvas, never set foot in a gym, never touched weights before in their life. Other people have been training for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever. But I need to know what you already know or what you think you know and get a very good look at how you currently move. So some of the movements that I put him through, he knew and he was familiar with, and others were brand new and unfamiliar to him. So if there's an exercise that somebody already knows, I don't give any prompting. I give zero coaching. I just say, this is what we're going to do. I want you to just show me what you've got. Just show me what you already know. So I got him to demonstrate his technique with no prompting, no formal coaching, no instruction, just to establish his current standard of movement. I'm going to go through them with you very quickly. So this lad that I had come in, 18 years old, we did push-ups. His head was poked forward. He had shallow depth, so he wasn't going all the way to the floor. And he had an incomplete top position, so he didn't lock his elbows out at the top, kind of finished just shy. So he gets these really quick reps in, but they're short range of motion, not complete elbow extension, so locking out the elbows. Then we moved on to a pull. We did some body rows. His hips were low. The range of motion was short, so his chest wasn't touching the bar. And his abs were on vacation. They were non-existent. Abs were doing sweet fuck all. Proceeding to the kettlebell deadlift, lifting something off the ground. So he'd not done deadlifting before, but he's lifted shit off the ground. If you've ever picked anything off the ground, you've done a deadlift. You've done a hinge, okay? Anyway, his back was rounded. He was squatting his hinge, not engaging his posterior chain. So basically just working the entirely wrong set of muscle groups. And it's not his fault. That's just his current standard. He's never done it before, so I don't expect it to be perfect. Then we worked on the squat pattern, and they were fast, had some pretty lackluster knee controls, kind of here and there, it's a bit hit and miss. No glutes or abs at the start and finish position. So that was it in a nutshell. Now, I'm not saying this to pick on this young fella. He's doing the right thing by reaching out and getting some coaching, because you don't know what you don't know. If you've never had any formal training, if you've never had any hands-on coaching, if you've never had anybody actually pull you up on your technique and say, hey, this is a more effective way to go about it. Or, hey, I've got some tips and some strategies to help improve your push-up. Would you like to hear them? If you've never had any of that, don't expect to be a fucking superstar at it. All right, I'm not picking on this kid. I'm just saying, hey, this is his standard. And I explained this to him. So anyway, troubleshooting. Let's go back to the push-ups. I always ask people, how many could you do? And he said 20. I said, okay, I don't need 20. I don't need you to drop and give me 20. I said, just give me 10. So he said, did 10. I was like, how many more could you do? He said, 10 or more. I was like, sweet. So for him, they felt pretty comfortable. They felt pretty easy. After I worked on some shoulder stability work, after I worked on some hands-on adjustment and positioning, 5 reps suddenly became hard. So we made several tweaks, one at a time. So we'd fix one thing, do a couple reps. How'd that feel? Better, but harder. Fix a couple more things. How'd that feel? Better, but harder. And then 5 reps eventually came hard. Then we went to body rows with the correct positioning and the proper touch point. So hitting the sternum, not the belly button, not the lower abdomen, but hitting the sternum, breastbone, nipple line. 6 reps became hard. All right. So let's think about that. He could do double digits. He could do double figures, 15, 20 reps. All of a sudden, with a little adjustment, with engaging the right muscle groups, abs, glutes, changing his start position and getting him in a better position under the bar and getting it to hit the right point, 6 reps all of a sudden is now difficult. And I don't want it to be harder just for the sake of harder. I want it to be correct. And as a result of it being correct, it became harder because he's doing the right things. He's engaging the right muscle groups and he's not engaging the undesired ones. Okay? Fast forward, kettlebell deadlift. I changed his head position. Instead of having him look down, I had him look straight ahead. And I gave him one thing to focus on the whole time. And he had a straighter and a more stable spine position. So he was now hinging his deadlift. He was doing what we wanted out of that movement pattern. Deadlift is a hinge, not a squat. So he started to feel his hamstrings. I was like, terrific. Then we got to the last one, which is the squat pattern. And I got him to slow down. I got him to feel the reps. I used a 1 kilo dumbbell and I started tapping moderately aggressively on his abs because that forces people to tense them. It forces you to brace. And then I used the same dumbbell, tapping him on the glutes, tapping him on the butt, and all of a sudden, the glutes switch on. They get tight. They start lighting up. Cool. So now we have some actual muscle activity. We have the muscles contracting to stabilize the joints, which is exactly what we want. Stability under load. So anyway, we start doing slower squats. His trunk is a lot tighter. And as a result of doing these things and playing with his foot position, it helped to reduce the knee pain and prevent some catching that he had on the lateral part of his knee on the outside. So you could see already those are 4 pretty simple, pretty basic, pretty fundamental movement patterns. He came in with a particular standard. Push-ups, how do you do them? Don't know. He just didn't know where to put his hands. He just hopped down and did 10. Didn't know where to put his hands, except for on the ground. And that's okay. I explained, this is where we put the hands and this is why I put them here. And I did that for all the movements and every single exercise improved. Every single exercise got harder for him, but he got more out of it because it was done properly. This is starting to sink in. It's starting to hit home. When it comes to lifting weights, every single exercise should have a best technique checklist or a set of standards to uphold. Feet must be placed here. Knees must do this. Abs must do this. Bar must touch here, etc. I don't count shit reps. I don't let students do more if it's not done right. I won't let anybody lift heavier until their skill and their technique is where it needs to be. So you can say all the right things to me. You can say, okay, when we do a barbell back squat, it needs to sit on the upper trapezius. We want the shoulder blades back and down. We want to brace the abs. We want to spread the floor apart, push the knees out, open the hips up, and pull ourselves down into a squat. We want to push the earth away and drive up to standing, full hip extension, exhalation at the top. Beautiful. You've told me all of this stuff that is technically correct, but can you execute it? That's what I'm concerned about. It's not about what you know. It's about what you can demonstrate. So, like I'm saying, what I'm telling you here, this isn't a bad thing. Me being a coach who pulls you up on your technique, who tries to fix your flaws in your form or address something that's not done to the best way possible, this is not a bad thing. This is a fucking great thing. It is the ultimate expression of caring. I'm going to explain this again. I'm going to repeat this because this bears repeating. As a coach, it's my job to pull you up on your technique. If you're not doing something correctly, if you're not engaging the right muscle groups, if you're not using the right joints, if your body is compensating, if you're cheating, if you're using momentum, if the weight's too heavy and you can't maintain range of motion, if the technique is falling apart because you are getting fatigued, it's my fucking job to pull you up on it. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. It is the ultimate expression of a coach giving a shit and caring enough about you to do something about it. To say, hey, I'm not going to let you keep advancing due to your ego getting in the way. I'm not going to allow you to keep imprinting poor movement patterns into your brain. I'm not going to keep letting bad habits become your new standard. Unacceptable. Unfucking acceptable. That's what a coach does. And that's what I do really fucking well. I don't let people slide by with average or sketchy reps. Not on my watch. And I don't care how many reps you do. People say that practice makes perfect. No, it does not. Practice makes permanent. And your nervous system is what basically tells the body what to do. You send a signal from the brain, it goes down your spinal cord, and then you fire off motor units to the muscles to contract to do X, Y, Z. But if what you do is practice incorrect technique over and over again, all you're going to do is get really good at the wrong thing. There is no benefit to this whatsoever. So let's break down some movement standards. Let's actually give you some takeaway things that you can put into practice as of right now. When it comes to push-ups, I want a neutral spine. This is the natural curves of your spine from tip to tail. Okay? This means a straight line from your ankles through to your shoulders. In the push-up, your arms bend, nothing else. It is a moving plank. So if you stand up, put your hands out in front of you, bend your arms, straighten your arms, pull your elbows back to the wall behind you, and then push them to the wall in front of you. That is the motion. That is all we should see move. Chest for men or boobs for ladies, touch the floor. So in a straight line, down, up. Your arms bend and straighten while the rest of your body comes with you and it's connected with a really strong brace, tight abs. Okay? Barbell deadlift. Hinge. That means shins are nearly vertical. Your hips are above your knees and below your shoulders. The barbell is in line with your shoulders. So the bar is in front of you. The bar is not behind your shoulders because then it's going to have to travel forwards. The barbell lines up directly under your shoulders. Okay? And it's a leg exercise. It's not a back exercise. So you use your legs and your hips to push the floor away and stand up with the bar, and you reach full hip extension at the top. That means you squeeze your butt. That's a barbell deadlift. Pull-ups. It is a double overhand grip. You start from a dead hang. So you don't jump off the bar and start pulling. You suspend yourself in midair. So you take a grip, one hand, two hands, 1 foot off the ground, 2 feet off the ground. Okay? So it's a dead hang. Then we initiate by getting active shoulders. So that means shoulders away from the ears, and we're thinking about pulling the bar down until you reach full elbow flexion. So this is when your elbows are pulled down, not back, as far as possible. So if you were to grab a broomstick, put it over your head with a double overhand grip, bring it right down so it's just in front of your nose, pull your elbows down as far as you can, you will finally reach a stop point where you can no longer pull that bar down and your elbows cannot go down any further. That is the top part of your pull-up. Okay? That's as far as you pull. It's not about just craning your neck and reaching up to get your chin over the bar. Focus on pulling your elbows down rather than reaching your head and your neck up to the ceiling. Kettlebell goblet squat. The kettlebell stays fixed under your chin and slightly off the body. There should be a little bit of daylight. It's not an arm's length away from you. It's just off the body. Your hips and knees bend at the same rate because it's an up and down motion. The hips and knees bend roughly equally so that the primary direction is down. A squat is down. Okay? The knees track the toes, meaning they follow the same direction. So if your toes are dead straight, your knees must be dead straight. If you turn your toes out at 30 degrees, your knees need to face out at 30 degrees. As we come up, we do not want a stripper squat. We do not want the hips to shoot up early. We want the hips and shoulders to rise at the same rate. Those are 4 very simple and easy movement standards. If any of those standards are not met, they need addressing. So when you do your pull-ups, if you cannot get your shoulders away from your ears, that's a red flag. We're going to stop where we are and try and address it. Maybe it's an awareness thing. Maybe you don't know where your shoulders are actually positioned when you're supporting your own body weight. Maybe it's a strength thing. Maybe you don't have strong enough scapular stabilizers to actually get them in that position as you do the pulling motion. In the push-up, maybe you don't know where your abs are. Maybe you just don't know how to brace your abs tight. There's certainly ways we can get that happening very quickly, by the way. But if you don't know how to engage your abs, if you don't know how to contract those muscles, they're not going to stabilize your body. It's not going to be a fucking plank. Your hips are going to be down in the floor, or they're going to be high up in the fucking sky like an A-frame, neither of which meets our standard. So this is the thing. Do not reward bad behavior. Do not reward a lack of concentration. Do not reward pure laziness with heavier weights, with more reps, or advancement of any type until the standard has been met and demonstrated. Another example for you. I recently had a kettlebell lesson with a gentleman. He's been doing kettlebell training somewhere else for about a year and came in to work on his kettlebell swing. This guy knew all the right things to say. He's obviously done some homework. He's done some reading. Okay? He knew all the right things, but he couldn't do them. So knowledge is not enough, and knowledge alone is not power. From like textbook, he knew all the shit to say. He knew what he should be doing, but he couldn't do it. It's not about what you know, it's about what you can prove. It's about what you can actually do. Okay? The young fella who I had come in when he was doing his push ups, he asked me, why is my way easier and why is your way harder? Well, I just asked him. I got him to do another couple reps. So he just popped down and he did another 3 or 5 reps. And then I asked him, it's like, where's your head? And I adjusted his head position. I said, stop looking like back and look a little bit further forward. And then he did some more. And then he's like, oh, my head's poked out the front. Duh. And he gave himself a face palm. Just a gentle one, but enough to be like, oh, what an idiot. So when the head is poked out the front, that becomes the stop point. You can't go any deeper than the lowest part of your body. And if your head is poked out the front like a fucking chicken neck, it's going to mean it's a shorter range of motion. Shorter range of motion is easier. Shorter range of motion, due to bad positioning or incorrect head posture, is not correct. Therefore, we fix it. See where I'm getting at here? Everything has a fucking solution. But what I'm trying to get at, guys, is it's not about making it harder for the sake of it. It's about making it correct. And if by doing it correctly, it becomes harder, then so be it. Resistance training, by definition, is to overcome an external load or resistance. Okay? Resistance training, by definition, is to overcome an external load or resistance. So if it's easy, you're probably doing it wrong. And if you don't have a standard or a technique that you're trying to aim for, how can you guarantee that what you're doing is the right thing? Like I said, you can't hit a target that isn't there. If you have no target, if you have no bullseye that you're trying to shoot for, it's impossible to get it. If you have no target, you can't get it right, period. You need a set of characteristics to review and tick off like a checklist. Put your hands here, put your feet there, do this with your abs, do this with your glutes, etc. This is what point A should look like. This is what point B should look like. Do not ever lower your movement standards. There's no benefit for doing so. Keep the movement quality as high as possible. And if that means you have to subordinate your ego and leave it at home or leave it at the door, then so be it. That could mean dropping the weight. That could mean decreasing the number of reps you do. It could also mean you increase your rest periods. And if that's the case, so be it. High standards are a good thing. Be one of the few people to set the standard and uphold it. When you're fresh, when you're tired, when you're happy, when you're sad, and especially when your legs or your lungs are burning and you don't want to fucking do it properly. That's the hallmark and that's the characteristic of people who go really far in life, is being willing to keep the standard no matter what. So that's my advice to you. I hope you take it on board. I hope you'll take it seriously, and I hope you'll implement it in your training as soon as possible, whenever your next training session is. So that's it, guys. Uphold your movement standards. If you loved the Wake Up Call, found it entertaining, or got some benefit out of listening, I would appreciate you helping me to spread the word. Please share it with a friend or on social media so that you can pay it forward and give someone else the opportunity to improve themselves like you just have. Thanks for listening. We'll see you soon for another episode.